But wait, if this factor is then, the where is blank. Greetings, this is Gachiko John speaking, and this is the problem with the movie Cosmic Princess Kaguya. And this analysis will be titled The Debut Song Enigma. If you've seen the movie, then you might agree with me when I say that it's 10 out of 10. It's literally a masterpiece and it's completely peak. It's absolutely peak. But what I'm about to present to you might change your mind or change how you perceive the story, or at least make you use your brain to actually want to, analyze the movie for yourself, analyze the story, and come to a conclusion of your own, Now, without further ado, let's get straight to the point and stop wasting any more of our time. So if you've seen the movie, then you'd know how it proceeds, how it starts, and how it ends. It starts with Kaguya arriving on Earth in front of Iruha's house, her telephone pole, and then she meets Iruha. After meeting, they grow fond of each other through the trials and tribulations that they go through what wanting to become a big enough image in the entertainment district or in the entertainment industry of Tsukuyomi. Yeah? Why? It's because they wanted to get that collab with Yachio. Remember that name. Yachio is a very important factor in this whole analysis. Yeah? So soon enough, they did get that collab with Yachio, but not long after, she had to graduate because the people from her homeland wanted to bring her back to the moon because she still had work to do. So, Kaguya did her graduation live, she graduated, and then she departed for the moon. And 2 or 3 days later, Iruha went back to work and finished that song that she wanted to finish for Kaguya, That song that she and her late father made. So she finished the song, she sung it, and the song got transmitted to the moon through that bracelet thing that Kaguya gave her before she left. So Kaguya heard the song and she was motivated to go back to Earth. But she found one slight problem. And that problem was that if she did go back to Earth at that moment, by the time she landed, she would have already seen Iruha at an old age, So to counteract that, she time traveled so that by the time she landed on Earth, it would have already been the same instance as she departed, But unfortunately enough, her shuttle got intercepted by some floating piece of rock in space, and the trajectory of her shuttle got changed into a time frame of 8,000 years before meeting Iruha. I know, very unfortunate. And that is where the movie ends. And yeah, that's everything that I wanted to say. So goodbye and farewell. Roll end credits. The end? Nah, we're just getting started. Run it back. If you've been keen enough to notice and realize that I've only been pointing and indicating at timeline B, you'd be asking me, why am I only focusing on timeline B? Then why are there multiple timelines on the board? And the answer to that is, we gotta roll back to Yachio. Who is Yachio? Yachio is the Kaguya from 8,000 years before. But if that's the case, then where did Kaguya from timeline B go? Timeline B Kaguya became the Yachio of timeline C. What does this mean, you may be asking? This means that Kaguya accidentally created a time loop of what? A time loop of Kaguya becoming Yachio that would inspire the Kaguya of that timeline to become the Yachio of the next. It's a rinse and repeat, a constant cycle of Kaguya maturing into Yachio. Okay, so with that information as a prerequisite, we can assume that there is a starting point to all this looping, that there is an origin. Now, this origin timeline, which we will label as timeline A, is the timeline where there is only one Kaguya to begin with, the timeline before all this time traveling. Okay, so the next step to this analysis is going to be figuring out what happened on that timeline, timeline A. What did happen there to begin with? I think that's pretty straightforward. It was even narrated by Yachio herself in the movie. If your memory is still good enough to, recall what she said, then you'd know that it started off as her and the moon doing her job, aka the origin, and then she got bored with the moon and all the happenings there, and she saw all the fun on Earth and she wanted a piece of that fun for herself. And then she went to Earth, landed on Earth, and met Iruha and goes fun with Iruha and departs for the moon. Yeah, not long after, they go through the trials and tribulations, air quote, with Iruha. And on point E on timeline A is going to be Kaguya hearing Iroha's song, the finalized version. Then she got motivated to go back to Earth and time traveled to counteract the, time delay or the time gap of Earth and the Moon. And Yachio, aka the Kaguya from timeline A, became the Yachio of timeline B. And that is where the loop starts. So with that, we have now visualized the entirety of the story. We have now laid out all the dots, all the points, all the relevant information to this analysis. Now, looking at this visualization of the plot, you may be asking, what seems to be the problem? No, better said, where is the problem? Because as far as I can see, there doesn't seem to be any apparent issue with the plot. That is a good question. But to that I'll also reply with another question. Why did Kaguya return to Earth? And no, I'm not talking about the Kaguya that got bored and went to Earth just for the fun of it. No, I'm talking about why did Kaguya go to Earth, This. You see this blank space here? Do you see this point of time on timeline A? Do you see the point below it on timeline B? This is when Kaguya arrives on Earth 8,000 years before they meet Iroha. But where's the Kaguya here? Where's the point here? No. Why? Because there's only one Kaguya on timeline A. So, which Kaguya arrived on timeline A if there was no time traveling to begin with? But that seems too far-fetched, so let's take a step back and ask again. Why did Kaguya return to Earth to begin with? Why? It was because of Iroha's song. Now, why did Iroha finish the song to begin with? It was because of... Come on, I'm waiting for your answer. Yachio. And now you may be saying, but it was because of Kaguya, because of all of their character development and their progression and their growth together. No, you don't seem to understand. The reason why Iroha finished the song, it was because of Yachio. And why do I specify that it's Yachio? It's because Yachio is Kaguya. But the Kaguya that landed 8,000 years before, the one that matured into someone that would inspire the next Kaguya to become the next Yachio. The Yachio that created Tsukuyomi, the stage of the entire movie. Do you see the problem here? Now you may be saying, but why is Kaguya such an important factor? Why is Tsukuyomi and Yachio and becoming a VTuber and entertainer such an important factor? I think the answer to that is pretty clear as day. Even though it's night, I think it's clear as day. Why? It's because if there was no Yachio to develop the story, then there would be no story to begin with. If there was no Yachio, problems would arise. What are those problems, you may be asking? I'll list them out for you. There would be no Tsukuyomi. There would be no Iroha's Oshi. There would be no common goal. There would be no journey. And why does that matter? It's because if they did not pursue all those, then they wouldn't have revived Iroha's passion for music that would, lead her to finish the song that she and her father made. Do you see the problem here? And now you may be saying, but why is Yachio such a big deal? What if Kaguya just found some other way to get bond with, Iroha and dug up her old files, her old songs, and even the song that she made with her late father? And the answer to that is, I think that is a foolish statement. Why? It's because they aspired to become a VTuber. It's because they aspired to aim to be on Yachio's level that they picked up music. They aimed to be a big enough image in the entertainment industry of Tsukuyomi, which Yachio created. They aimed to be a big enough image there that they get a collab with her. On that journey of becoming an entertainer, they picked up music. And because they picked up music, Iroha stumbled upon that old song that she and her late father made, which ended up where? Which ended up with Iroha finishing the song for Kaguya after she left. And do you know what happened after that? Kaguya heard the song, mind-blowing. I know. Kaguya heard the song and she got motivated to go back to Earth and became Yatsuyo of the next timeline. But that's the problem. Where is the Kaguya here? Where's the timeline before Timeline A? If Timeline A was the origin timeline, then why is there only one Kaguya? If there is only one Kaguya, then there wouldn't be any time traveling, because there wouldn't be any growth and development that would lead them into this loop. There would be no growth, there would be no development for Iroha to create that song that would motivate Kaguya to become the Yatsuyo of the timeline. Do you see the problem here? Think about it. Okay, so let's give your hypothesis an actual chance. Let's say that the story does progress without Yatsuyo, aka the Kaguya from the previous timeline. So the story goes as said. Kaguya goes to Earth and returns to the moon when she goes home. Even then, the story still wouldn't be possible. And that's because of Yatsuyo's debut song being the finalized version of Iroha's song. That's why we know that Yatsuyo is an integral part of Timeline A. It's because if she wasn't there to set the stage, then there would have been no trials and tribulations, there would have been no development, no growth, no journey. And if there was no growth to force Iroha to become the person strong enough to sing that song to begin with, then the story wouldn't be possible. If there was no song for Kaguya to be inspired by and return to Earth at Timeline B, then there would have been no Yatsuyo on Timeline B. There wouldn't have been no loop, there would have been no Yatsuyo, no Tsukuyomi, no Kaguya to go back to Earth. No story, no nothing. If it's not for that song, it's because of that song that the story is not possible. No matter how you flip and turn the perspective, it's not possible. The problem with the debut song is that if the story revolves around it, then there's no way for it to happen. If there was no second Kaguya on the origin timeline, then there wouldn't have been no Yatsuyo to encourage and set the stage for Kaguya of that timeline to become the Yatsuyo of the next. If Yatsuyo wasn't there to encourage Iroha to pick up music once more and sing that song again and finish it for Kaguya, then there wouldn't have been no story. It's because the story revolves around the song inspiring Kaguya to become the Yatsuyo that would set the stage that it's not possible. So the question is, who was Yatsuyo before Kaguya? Man, it's just so genius. And that, people, is the problem with the movie Cosmic Princess Kaguya. That is the debut song Enigma.